BTT members, ready for some movie news? We have a lot to discuss today, some particularly interesting stories. It's nice to see so many cast members from The Office doing so well, right? But first I want to remind you that tonight we're doing our first live stream for BTT members where we watch a movie together. We're going to watch The Incredibles 2. Make sure that you get the Edna Mode short with your purchase. Joseph, I know you said you bought it through Fandango. I hope that they include that with your purchase because we're going to watch that first. But again, that starts tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The link will go up about 15 minutes beforehand under the community tab on the main channel, as these have been. So I'm really excited for that. I think we're going to have a really good time. So before we get started with today's 3 stories, let's do, I forgot to do it yesterday because I was like really rushed. Oh, and by the way, my Bohemian Rhapsody review will be going up, I think, tomorrow morning because I have another video that's all ready to go up right after this stream about the Wonder Woman release date situation that's evolving, and then of course I have to get ready for tonight's live stream. Very exciting, but I just wanted to give you that update. But first, let me ask you, where's everybody watching from? Oh, Anthony, I'm glad you have your copy already. Cincinnati, Ohio, fantastic. Sorry, there's a little bit of a delay. Scotland, there we go. Netherlands, freaking Bama, I love it, Ryan. Utah, Cleveland, Paris, France. Nice use of emojis there, Maxime. Let's see here. Chelsea, New York City, Maryland, England. Walking home from work and finally able to stream live. That's wonderful. Warsaw, Poland. Rio, the space coast of Florida. Ethan, that's very atmospheric. San Diego, hi, Diana. Florida, Hawaii. Oh, good use of emojis, guys. Another Paris person. That's fantastic. School, Joseph. It's so great to see, as always, people joining this conversation from across the globe. All right, so we have our 3 stories, and then we'll do our live discussion. All right, so let me highlight the first story of the day, and that is that they are making a John Lennon and Yoko Ono movie. Constance Wu, I've found your next project. I only kind of kid. I think Constance Wu is very unlikable. I didn't like how she handled the whole Great Wall situation, but I do think that she's kind of talented. I don't think she was particularly well used in Crazy Rich Asians, but she knows how to get attention for herself, which is kind of like Yoko Ono. And she hasn't, interestingly, been able to get anything off of Crazy Rich Asians. So if I were her, and she certainly knows how to do this, I would go after this project, especially since they're working very hard to make Yoko Ono look good here. I don't know if that's possible or how fans will view that, but they're trying to show a positive view of the Lennon-Ono relationship. Now, before we get into a little bit more into the details of this movie, the package is coming together very nicely. It's going to be distributed by Universal, and Jean-Marc Vallée, he's really the linchpin here. He has stepped up to direct. He, of course, is famous for Wild and Dallas Buyers Club, but he really made his name on the small screen for HBO with Big Little Lies, and then again with Sharp Objects. So he's getting back into films. This is his next movie, and he's going to tell, again, a positive portrayal of their relationship, which is interesting to me because, of course, Yoko Ono is infamous in pop culture history for breaking up the Beatles. I mean, people to this day say, you know, you're going to Yoko Ono something if you break it up and you know, become a disruptive figure. So I don't even know how, again, audiences will respond to trying to put a positive spin on that, especially since that's just not how it's widely seen. If any of you are Beatles fans, I'd be curious to know how you would feel about this. They're also not going to show the assassination because, again, they want to keep it positive. I guess it's also going to be a celebration of John Lennon's solo career after the Beatles, and they're going to stop short of that horrible fate that befell him. Although, again, I feel like they're leaving out really important stuff. Who would you cast as John Lennon? That should be a really popular role. He's looking a little Daniel Radcliffe-y there, actually, as I look at the photo. But I would be going for Christian Bale. I'd be like, you don't have to gain a lot of weight for this role, Christian Bale. Come on. I think he would be a good choice. All right, so that's the first story of the day, and I'm very curious to, music bios are very popular. They even mentioned Bohemian Rhapsody. I believe one of the writers for that movie is going to be working on this one. You, of course, have the Elton John picture coming up. So, as I said, as we say all the time, studios love to copy each other, and so this is kind of in that vein as well. All right, so the next story of the day is that A Quiet Place is continuing to have their awards strategy take shape. Now, as you might have heard before, you're allowed to choose which categories you submit for. And this is particularly interesting when it comes to acting, because you have to decide if you want to submit for lead or supporting. This was a big scandal a couple of years ago with Carol, the Cate Blanchett Rooney Mara movie, when Rooney Mara was submitted for supporting, even though many felt she was a co-lead. But it's still up to the studio to submit, and you try and submit where you think you have the best chance of getting a nomination. And initially, Krasinski and Blunt wanted to be submitted as leads, but now the whole family will be submitted in the supporting categories. I think, as many of the trades are pointing out, Emily Blunt is going to try and go for a nomination potentially for Mary Poppins. Mary Poppins Returns. Julie Andrews, of course, famously not only made her silver screen debut in the role, but won the Oscar herself. I don't know. We'll have to see how the movie turns out. I think it would be hard to win an Oscar for reprising a role. And so far, while I think Emily Blunt looks like she's doing a lovely job, I don't think she's doing a Julie Andrews level job. So I really don't think that this movie is in the mix for the acting categories. I think it's really going to be competitive when it comes to directing and particularly screenwriting. But here's the thing. This just gets them some ink. Even though it's not really a contender in acting, it makes a nice headline, especially during a very quiet week. And people are reminded of A Quiet Place, and then it's a serious awards contender to a degree, and it's just a clever awards strategy. So I think this is more about the headline than actually getting nominations for the movie. All right, so that's the second story of the day. Now, the third story of the day, speaking of The Office, Steve Carell has a hot new gig. I'll talk about why I chose this picture in particular in a moment. But anyway, Steve Carell has vowed that he will not return for a new season of The Office. With all the shows that are coming back, people are like, how about The Office? And Steve Carell, John Krasinski's always like, I'm all for it. But Steve Carell's like, I just don't think it would work. But he is returning to the small screen for streaming, as it was announced today that he is joining Apple's morning show, which goes behind the scenes of a morning show with Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon, of course, starring. Interestingly enough, Reese Witherspoon kind of factors into this overall episode because she, of course, got her career revitalized by Big Little Lies, directed by Jean-Marc Vallée. They say Hollywood's a small town, and I think today in particular is a good way to see that in action. So I'm very excited for him to return to the small screen. That means more memes, baby. I love Steve Carell's Office memes and GIFs. So good. And he'll be playing a little bit of a similar character, an anchor struggling to stay relevant in a changing media landscape. But if they're smart, maybe they'll play up the new sexy Steve Carell. I don't know if you've seen on social media, but particularly in the past year or so while promoting his projects, a number of people have taken note about how he's upped his game appearance-wise. He looks pretty slick, he's dressing nicely. Many people are saying, when did Steve Carell get so sexy? I think Steve Carell's always been sexy. If you go back and you see Crazy Stupid Love, he had a nice career for a while in romantic comedies for a reason. He's very, very good. But I would play that up on this show. I also think it's interesting that he kind of I think with this decision is giving up on movies a little bit. He's like, didn't work out, and I agree that it didn't work out. Go get that money, Steve Carell, because I don't think The Beautiful Boy is going to, speaking of awards contenders, I don't think it's shaping up to be that strong. We could be pleasantly surprised, but as I said in my review, it might have been in Movie Math, but I recently said that Hollywood doesn't really want to see Steve Carell win an Oscar right now. So he's kind of just wasting his time or spinning his wheels. So go to Apple, get that paycheck. It was not revealed what his salary is, but I'm sure it's considerable. And Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon were announced to be getting $1.25 million per episode. So I'm sure he's somewhere in the same ballpark. So good for him. Good for you, Steve Carell. All right, so those are today's top 3 stories. Thank you, everybody, for joining me to discuss them. I hope you thought they were as interesting as I did. Now it's 4:14. We're going to do 10 minutes of live interaction. So we'll discuss until, let's say, we'll just make it till 4:25 just to make it even. All right, everybody. Alistair agrees. Steve Carell gives off sugar daddy vibes. That's hilarious. Kyle Bailey says, sounds like the plot of The Newsroom, only for a morning show. I would agree. It also sounds a lot like the new Murphy Brown, but the new Murphy Brown is crashing and burning. Oh yeah, Emma, what about Welcome to Marwen? I don't, they've stopped advertising that. Maybe they'll crank it up again. I think that Steve Carell's career is just really not going very well right now on the silver screen. He's a silver fox who can't make it on the silver screen, so I think he should definitely go back to movies. I mean, to television. All right, let's see here. Tom, I did not watch the new Doctor Who. I watched the trailer and I was like, meh, and so I was like, I'm not going to get into this. Julio, any thoughts on Narcos Season 4? I thought the trailer looked amazing. Very well cut, and of course, who doesn't love Michael Pena and Diego Luna? So I'm very excited about that. I will be watching that. Alistair, I haven't decided about Suspiria, to be honest with you. Let's see here. Rashad, when does the Apple series come out? I don't believe that they have given us a start date yet, but it's really coming together, so it should be coming out soon. Joker says, without breaking any embargo, would you classify Bohemian Rhapsody as a must-see in a Dolby theater? Yes, I would see it on as big a screen as you can get with a very strong sound system. So yeah, definitely. Liam, I won't be reviewing the Mary Poppins special look because it's a TV spot. TV spots are tricky, so I will not be covering that. But I'm sure they'll have another trailer before the movie comes out, and I'll definitely be covering that in full. Diana, my video is about the two movies who just took the Wonder Woman former release date. So Imre, your question will be answered when I post that video after this stream. Lance, I never did get to see Peppermint. Jennifer Garner also. Although I have to say, I tried camping and I thought it was horrible. And Lena Dunham was like, "Oh, I'm upset that women are described as unlikable." And I was like, "Well, what do you want? You created an unlikable character." That was literally how I described her to a friend when I was talking about the show before I read that article. And Lena Dunham said, "It's crazy that Walter White and Tony Soprano kill people but aren't described as unlikable. And yet my Jennifer Garner character is." I'm like, well, first of all, Jennifer Garner even herself said her character was not likable. And then second, unlikable doesn't mean reprehensible or bad members of society. And that just shows you how likable Walter White and Tony Soprano were, that they could be murderers and criminals, and people still thought they were awesome. So I think that was ridiculous. I thought that hiding under feminism, I thought was ridiculous on that. See here. Grismeyer says, I dropped camping after episode 1. I love the cast, but the first episode was terrible. Totally agree. Took it off a series record. I haven't started watching The Haunting of Hill House yet. I'm annoyed that I missed that. Do I know when I'll see Widows? I'm going to email Fox about it this week. Jordy says, any opinions about the Netflix Avatar live-action remake? Yes, I'm glad that they're going live-action. I don't like the fact that they're retreading the original material and just telling it with a live-action cast. I think why invite the comparison? I think that the animated series is pretty perfect, particularly the original seasons. So what I would suggest is that, as I've always said, is that they tell a live-action version of the older versions of those characters. That's what I'd like to see that was referenced in The Legend of Korra. That's what I think would be interesting and break new ground, but that's not what they're doing. Let's see here. Am I going to watch, review House of Cards Season 6? I don't know. I haven't really ever covered that show on my channel. I don't really know if there's overlap. Again, because of what happened with Ozark, and I feel horrible about that, Dennis, is that I'm not reviewing any more Netflix shows, really, unless I get them in advance, because it's just too hard to cover them. Oh, Ethan, I can't. That's a spoilery question. I can't do it. Anthony says, what do you think Captain Marvel needs to open with to be a success? I was thinking 80 to 90. Look, here's the deal. I know that people don't like comparing Wonder Woman to Captain Marvel, but I'm sorry. That's the comparison. They're the two flagship female characters of their respective comic book universes. So Captain Marvel needs to open on par with Wonder Woman, not to have people say it didn't open as big as Wonder Woman. That's just the reality of the situation. Is Oprah going to be in Ocean's 9? Why not? You get a cameo. You get a cameo. I haven't watched the Mary Poppins spot, Brandon. I've been crazy busy all morning. And also I was deciding if I could cover it. If not, it was difficult. So I just kind of like backed away from it. Fatty Antoine says, hey Grace, I still don't understand how Netflix canceling Iron Fist and Luke Cage is fighting back against Disney. How does it hurt Disney more than Netflix? I think that Netflix does not want to carry Disney content. They're like, why should we help you if you're our competitor? And I think it's embarrassing to Disney to have their shows canceled. Disney's usually all full of win. So for their entire, Marvel, I mean, like when Thanos snapped his fingers, everyone's making the joke that it was Thanos, but it was really Netflix. So for Netflix to kill off a whole universe, and really say, hey, we like it, but it's Disney's fault for, starting a fight with us, I think that they're kind of pushing back. And, think about it. If someone was going to set up a huge competitor to you, and people are pointing out, by the way, and I think this might overcrowd it, but the Disney streaming service will have links to merchandise and all the other things that you can do in the Disney empire based off of their properties. It'll be far more expansive than what Netflix offers. So if someone's doing that to you, why would you air their content? Especially when Netflix has tons of other hits as it is. I just think they're like, if we're against each other, we're against each other. And I'm not going to have any of your people over here. Dustin says, I don't get how people don't understand that about Wonder Woman and Captain Marvel. Yeah, it was so stupid all day long. I had a couple of people being like, they're not, Captain Marvel comes out in March and Wonder Woman comes out in November. How is that competitive? I mean, it's so stupid. It's the same people who at the end of the year would be lining up how the movies did at the box office. When you have an end of the year box office for 2019, movies are going to be ranked, right? And so that's where Wonder Woman comes out of the competition. It's pretty obvious. I'm surprised that I think people just don't want to get it, quite frankly. And, a lot of people are very resistant to how the business works because they don't like what it says. They want to see it more as an art, and that's fine, but that's not what it is. So, if those people want to do that, that's fine, but they're going to be missing out on a large part, and they're not going to understand why things happen, and certain certain things don't. Let's see here. What movie do I think could be a surprise hit this holiday season, Alistair, besides the Deadpool movie? Maybe Bumblebee. I'm surprised how many people are interested in Bumblebee. Will there be a Q&A after Incredibles 2? I don't know, because we kind of do a Q&A now every day. So probably not, actually. Great question, Zachary. Where was Zachary's question? Okay, Zachary Bullhouse says, do you think that since Dark Phoenix is being released, New Mutants won't be? Let's see if Dark Phoenix ever gets released. It got pushed again. I still stand by that it's a mistake to release it. Thanks, so I'm glad you like my thumbholes, Brandon. I wouldn't release that movie. And Kevin Feige is very, he doesn't like to get into altercations with people. So he might just push it off until it just dies. And also based on, people were really clamoring for it before the trailer came out. But I think once the trailer came out, even people who were supporting it were like, yeah, that's bad. Maybe we shouldn't release it. I think they should both go to the streaming service, quite frankly. That's where I would put them. Although, does Disney really want that junk on their streaming service? It's supposed to be this great new exciting venture. Maybe you could stick them on Hulu, but of course we suspect Hulu will be rebranded. We'll see. Jake, we will watch the short first because it's the new material, and then we'll watch The Incredibles 2. So we'll watch the short first, and then we'll watch the movie. Fatty Antoine says, I think the Spider-Verse will be a big hit. The hype for it seems very strong. I thought so too, but it came on the tracking board at around 30 million opening, which is not great. So I'm kind of scared for that movie. Tracy says, how do we activate your channel perks emoticons? I'm trying to figure this out. I think now they only work in live chat. This is a new service that YouTube is offering. It's one of the reasons that I was so adamant about making this content exclusive to you, because the emojis and stuff, YouTube is still working on it. But I'm working on designing some nice badges for you guys, so when you comment on YouTube videos, Beyond the Trailer YouTube videos, you'll get a nice little badge. I mean, you have one now, but I want to get something really cool for you to have next to your username. Joseph says, which animated movie will be the film to beat in 2019? Toy Story 4 or Frozen 2? Toy Story 4. I'm really curious to see how they're going to justify that. Tim, okay, last question. Tim Stormans, that's a good one. Do you think a Bullseye series is possible? I fell in love with that character. Me too, boy. Wilson Bethel was so good. If you haven't watched Daredevil Season 3, you are missing out. But I think the Marvel Netflix shows are dying. Maybe that's how they could resurrect it over at Disney streaming. I just think the whole thing's going to go away. It's just going to be a nice little moment that we all got to enjoy, and then I think it's going to be done. Hopefully Wilson Bethel will get other work in other places. All right, so that's today's stream. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining me. Joker, the Auntie Edna short is available when you purchase the Incredibles 2 movie online. So again, come back here, 7 p.m. tonight, Eastern Standard Time. We'll be watching The Incredibles 2 together. I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. And, of course, also, I'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. All right, have a great rest of your afternoon, and that Wonder Woman video will go up now.